Well, it's shortly past 3 and we'll get started. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending. I'm Corporal Guillaume Tremblay with the Nova Scotia RCMP. I'll be your moderator this afternoon. Bonjour à tous, je suis Caporal Guillaume Tremblay de la GRC en Nouvelle-Écosse. Je serai votre modérateur pour aujourd'hui. I'm joined today with the two RCMP's subject matter experts in police dog services. With us today, we have Staff Sergeant Steve Pike. He is the program manager of the RCMP Police Dog Services Training Center. And also joined with us is Sergeant Dave Whalen, a supervisor in the RCMP Police Dog Services. Staff Sergeant Pike and Sergeant Whalen are here to answer questions about the police dog human remains detection. Aujourd'hui, je suis accompagné de deux experts de la GRC dans le domaine des services de chiens de police. Le sergent d'état-major Steve Pike, gestionnaire de programme au centre de dressage des chiens de la GRC, et le sergent Dave Whalen, superviseur des services de chiens de police de la GRC. Le sergent d'état-major et le sergent Whalen sont ici pour répondre aux questions spécifiques à la détection des restes humains par les chiens policiers. As noted in the advisory about their availability, they're not here to speak directly about an investigation they're supporting. They are here to answer questions regarding human remains detection and police dog services. I also have with me here today my colleague Ian McDonald, who is online to assist the question and answer period. We will take one question and one follow-up from each of you, and we will proceed in alphabetical order. When asked the questions, Ian will proceed and unmute your mic, and then you can proceed with the question and the follow-up afterwards. Please state your name and the agency that you represent. Comme indiqué dans l'avis aux médias, ne participent pas directement aux enquêtes, mais les supportent. Alors, ils sont ici aujourd'hui pour répondre aux questions en relation d'être maître chien et des détections de restes humains. Si vous avez des questions directement pour l'enquête, s'il vous plaît, communiquez avec les communications stratégiques de la GRC en Nouvelle-Écosse. Avec moi ici aujourd'hui, j'ai aussi mon collègue Ian McDonald qui est en ligne pour nous assister avec la période de questions-réponses. Durant la période questions-réponses, s'il vous plaît, limitez-vous à une question et un suivi et indiquez quelle agence et votre nom. Just as a reminder, if you have any investigative questions specifically, you can contact the Nova Scotia RCMP Strategic Communications and direct those questions there. I'll hand over the floor to Staff Sergeant Pike for a quick intro, and then we'll follow up with Sergeant Whalen.
Thank you. As mentioned, my name is Stephen Pike. I'm a member of the RCMP, currently posted at the Police Dog Service Training Center, located in Innisfil, Alberta, where we are responsible for the breeding program and the training and validations of all the RCMP police service dogs across Canada. My role as program manager oversees that as for the national level.
Thank you, Staff Sergeant Pike. We'll pass things over to Sergeant Whalen.
Hey, my name is Sergeant Dave Whalen. I'm stationed down in the lower mainland of Vancouver, BC. My current role is a training NCO for a large team down in Vancouver. I've got just about 35 years experience, 21 years of that as a dog handler, and I spent 5.5 years working with Staff Sergeant Pike in the Police Dog Service Training Center, and I'm currently a human remains dog handler with my dog Kit.
Thank you both, and as noted, both will be in Nova Scotia to assist with investigations here with the Nova Scotia RCMP. I'll hand things over to Ian. We'll start with the question and answer period. We'll proceed alphabetically. Thank you, Ian.
Good day, folks. We will proceed alphabetically as per my participant list via Teams. So Adam, pardon me if I get your last name wrong, Ponce, you're up. No? Okay. We will proceed with Allie Thompson.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'd like to know why now? Why not earlier in this investigation?
Ali, I can take that question of the police dog services here. And in regards, I'm assuming you're talking about the Lilly and Jack bomb.
Yeah.
So earlier on, very active investigation, a lot of resources, hundreds of volunteers, thousands of volunteer hours, square kilometers of search thoroughly. And we have to keep our options open, look at every investigative avenue. To this date, we've received over 800 tips. We've done 80 interviews, over 1,000 tasks, and reviewed over 8,000 videos. Certainly, there's a lot of work in missing persons investigation. And this is, the next step with our resources. We're looking at every resource that's available, and investigators are working very hard every day on this file.
That does not answer my question. Let me rephrase it. When are cadaver dogs usually brought into such missing persons investigations? Is there any sort of timeline that police look at for that?
Did you want me to jump in there?
Yeah, sure thing, Steve, if you want to take that first portion, and if it's specific to Lilly and Jack's search, I can certainly handle that.
No, it would just be in general terms. In regards to the question there, at what point do they come in? And it was similar to be echoing what you had stated. It's a certain stage of a process. So to incorporate a human's remains detection, you would have to believe that there's reason to, that decomposition is taking place. Other than that, when the investigation would start, you have to rule out all other possibilities. Are they missing? Are they simply wandered off? So until you accomplish all those other, as you said, information coming in, tips that are coming in, you have to process all that information. If not, for a police service dog to be utilized to its most effective, you want a clean slate, for lack of better terms. You don't want to have so many variables of so many searchers and rescuers taking part in that search that the dogs now don't have a clear picture of what their task is. You and I could explain to each other, hey, we're looking for someone wearing this clothing. If we deploy the dog, they have to decipher that world, but from a scent perspective. So how do they distinguish? We want to make it as accessible as possible so that we deploy the resources with the most effective outcome.
Ali, if I can add as well, earlier on, the police dog services here in Nova Scotia did deploy to the scene, and they were trained to detect human scent, and they were heavily involved in the searches in very early on, as soon as the call came in.
So this isn't the first time that dogs that can detect human remains have been deployed in the search?
So the dogs that police dog services here in Nova Scotia can detect human scent, so they can track a person through the woods, for example.
Okay. And my follow-up, how long is this work expected to take? What kind of timeline do these investigations follow?
The timeline's basically, there's no real answer to that because we don't know what we don't know. So if we're going to deploy and search for whatever the case might be, whatever that target could be, whether it be explosives, drugs, live humans, decomposition material, you go till you alleviate all those possibilities, all those tips, if you will, all those highest areas of probability. So there's no real timeline to follow until you extinguish all possibilities.
Thank you, Ali. Ian, we can go down the list.
Perfect. Andrew Sampson.
Hi, folks. Just a really quick question before I ask my actual question. You said the dogs that searched were trained for human scent. That's different than human remains. That would be a human that was still alive. Is that true? Is that the case?
Thanks for that question. So yeah, earlier on, the police dog services here in Nova Scotia, whenever we call their services for an investigation, it would be to track a person's scent. It could be break and enter where the person of interest runs off the force. It could be a person who is missing. There's many scenarios where we would call on police dog services here in Nova Scotia.
Okay, thank you. So my question is, earlier it was mentioned that, you don't bring in the cadaver dogs until it's clear that, you're searching for remains. You don't want to confuse it with the other people searching. But we know that the search hasn't been active for months now. And, I think even as early as May 7th, police were saying it was unlikely the children were still alive. So with that known, I'm curious why it has taken so long to bring these dogs in.
Sorry, go ahead.
I can answer that first portion there in regards to the investigation. There's certainly a lot of steps at the very beginning, a lot of information that's being gathered by those investigators, and they have to follow up on those leads, right? We have to keep our minds open to any possibility, and certainly, we are open to any scenario in this case, and we have our police dog service experts that are coming in at this time.
I'll just add to that. I was a diver with the RCMP, and we would have to search. And what it comes down to is you search the areas of highest probability. So any investigation would have to direct you or point you into areas of highest probability. For the resources, all the background that it takes to locate areas of possible interest, for lack of better terms. So do you just each day pick a new area? Well, where do you target this to use the resources most effectively? Again, it's, as you stated, it's somewhat time sensitive. So if you burn out all your resources earlier on without having true information to lead you to the area of highest probability, that's all for now.
Okay, and just to follow up then, the fact that you are going to search with these dogs now, do you guys know what the area of highest probability is now where you're searching, and are you able to say where that is?
I can answer that question, Steve and Dave. So for officer safety and the integrity of the investigation, we're not going to disclose where our officers are going to be searching in the coming days or in the coming weeks. It's certainly for their safety. It's for the integrity. And I understand that all Nova Scotians want to know what happened to Lilly and Jack, and our officers do too. And we know it's going to take time. We wish it'd be faster, but we have to be patient.
Thank you, Andrew. Keith Doucette?
Hi, thanks. I wonder, not to belabor the point, but I wonder if somebody can clearly state the difference between a cadaver dog and the dogs that you were using, since the dogs that you were using were capable, I understand, of picking up the scent of somebody who just died. So what's the difference now? Is it time?
So the dogs that would have that deploy generally, so human remains detection dogs are specific to human remain odor, and that's completely different from live searching. So as of me right now, our scent is made up of your own personal as well as your secondary odors, such as your laundry detergents or any cosmetics or an environment in which you work in. So for example, if I was a mechanic, I'd be working in different chemicals, oils, so on and so forth. That would be adding to those components. All of that, our dogs are trained to search, whether it be tracking, as it was mentioned before, or even just searching. The dogs can recognize a human odor, as well as they can recognize scented materials. So for example, clothing items, evidence that is discarded. So there's 2 or 3 gamuts of what those original dogs that may deploy, we call them full profile or multi-profile police service dogs. They're the well-rounded, do a little bit of everything dog. When it comes to an HRD, they specifically do human remains decomposition. So that, like I said, that is a completely different gamut of possibilities, or sorry, a profile that they would search for. So they would be more specific, whereas the other teams would be more generalized into those items of interest. Could have been clothing that they could have found. The human remains detection dogs, they would not necessarily indicate on those. They may show some interest, but only be indicating to us to further investigation in regards to the presence of human remains odor. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, no, it's helpful. And with regards to the specialized dogs, how successful are they generally in searches? In other words, if you're in an area and there is a body there that you hadn't previously detected, are they going to find it necessarily?
Dogs will only find it if the odor is present. So when we search, how do I describe this? In Nova Scotia, back in 2017, there was a research study conducted with the medical examiner's office and the RCMP. This is kind of the building blocks of the human remains detection program for the RCMP. And when they did their study, I believe it was published in 2017, and their status for the training exercises was a 94% success rate. And out of that, that's where we developed our program and how we started incorporating that into our training. So in regards to operationally, there's so many factors that could come into place. One, if that odor is not being released for whatever reason, well, then the dogs won't be able to pick up on that odor. It's in essence not present. So if we take a Ziploc bag, for example, and it's completely airtight and the odor is no longer present, well, the dogs won't indicate on that. We may be visually be able to see that, but if the odor isn't present, the dogs are trained for odor. Once that odor is released, whatnot, then that dog would indicate to its handler. So this is why it's that team effort as well. The dogs may show interest on something and bring the handler closer, where they might be able to locate it as a team effort.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next, Marnie Els.
Thank you. I'm wondering, how long after death are these dogs most effective in searching? How long can they successfully search for? How long is the odor good for?
Again, there's so many variables. If I'm a larger individual, well, there's more material that will be releasing gases, and so it will be around for a longer period of time. The conditions, is there a slow release, or is it, is the predator or scavenger interaction? There's so many different variables. You won't be able to put a timeline on any of those components. There's, like I said, it basically is an educated guessing. You would have to take in all those parameters and conditions in how the remains have been placed or laid or decomposing, and what effect the environment and or the situation unfolds.
A lot of it is,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
yeah, a lot of it is environmentally based, and for example, what the staff Pike was talking about is what was the person wearing, where did they pass on, is it in the fall, is it during the midsummer? All that will have an effect on the human body. But what we can say is our dogs have been finding bones just out in the forest. And when those bones are put down, we can kind of trace back whenever that person went missing, to know that, okay, this is reasonable to know, kind of thing. So, so we, all different stages of decomposition is that our dogs are going to be able to detect for us.
We've had a very hot, dry summer here. Does that make the situation better or worse for your dogs?
I think I'd be very confident if we can get our dogs in the right area. better dogs, even if it's been a hot, dry summer, that should be fine for us.
Okay, and last question. So these dogs, the human detection dogs, we don't have any of those in Nova Scotia. They have to come from elsewhere. Is that correct?
Correct. The only one on the East Coast is in PEI right now.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Marnie. Up next, we have Heidi the Project.
Hi, just sorry, looking for my mute. It's Heidi Petrocic with Global National. Thanks for doing this. I have a technical question. How, if something is buried, what's the depth of scent detection that a human remains dog can do? Has that ever been studied?
For the most part, service dogs are lacking the scientific research and support just because it's relatively new, especially in Canada. They're pushing the limits, They're reaching out and expanding those limits all the time on the research. There's an advanced decomposition facility that's been recently opened in the last 5 or so years at a Trois-Rivières in Quebec. I believe there's some talk that they're looking at doing one in Ontario. So the science is trying to catch up. In regards to the depth, again, I don't know of any specific answer to that. The presence of odor. If the odor is there and it's being released, whatever depth it might be, whatever conditions it might be in, if the dogs are able, as Dave said here a few moments ago, if we have the ability to put the dogs in close proximity to where that odor is being released, the dogs will be successful. It's whether the odor is there and being released at the time that the dog is present.
In your experience, or in the experience of the other officer as well, have you ever found remains that have been buried to a significant depth?
Yes.
What would the depth have been in your recollection?
I think a significant depth would be a sliding scale for many people, but it was at least 2 feet, I would say. I don't know if that's significant or not, but like Staff Pike was just saying, air was being released and it was making it to the surface for our dog to go and find. You can relate this directly to our avalanche dogs, even the Carta dogs, the Canadian avalanche people. They're finding avalanche victims that are buried in snow many meters deep, but there's air being released through all the little different snow tracks to the surface. Those dogs are finding that odor, and that's live odor. Obviously, they're being buried, but yes, we do train for buried as well.
Our training standard is the 2 feet, 60 centimeters. As well, I was on some training exercises in the States, and the teams were exposed to the training exercises to depths of up to 6 feet. And the dogs were indicating.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. I see that several people have their hands up there. I'm going to ask you to lower the hand just because you're throwing off the list of individuals I have and I don't want to miss anybody. So if you could lower those, that would be appreciated. We can continue on. Thank you. So up next, I'm going to go to Lindsay Jones.
Hi there, Lindsay Jones with the Globe and Mail, and I have a question picking up on Heidi's. I'm wondering, can these dogs detect odors underwater and in ashes as well?
So our training standards, we do expose the teams, and they have been successful in water and burnt remains. We have one of our teams that we train. It's not directly RCMP, it's a partner agency. They were involved in a search, and when they deployed on a boat, and they have markings that coincide with the wind and the current, where divers went in and located. And his dog, he reported his dog indicating in 3 or 4 locations along that path And that body was recovered, I believe it was 18.2 meters, 60 feet.
Wow, thank you. And one more question. Can you locate original locations of remains after a body has been moved?
So what we would call that, again, I don't know if the correct term or not, so apologize. Feel free to fact check me here and get back to me. We would call it dirty dirt. And what would happen is if materials were looking, well, like our dogs indicate, as long as that presence, and again, we'll go back to what we said before, if the presence of human remains decomposition material is there, our dogs will indicate. And they've indicated on tools, equipment, and different things where I'm paraphrasing what your question is there. Will they find an original theme? Depends on what material is present to be off-gassing to releasing that decomposition odor.
Thank you.
I think an example, Lindsay, is literally just yesterday I was doing some training with my dog. I have a box in our training facility that we use. I've got 2 pieces of bone, they're femurs. So we placed dirt inside of that box and put the femurs inside of the dirt. Yesterday, I just took maybe a tablespoon of dirt out, put it in the middle of the parking lot, and let my dog go for a search. And we went and found this dirt in the middle of a parking lot. So yes, we are able to go and find what you think is called an original scene. For sure. There's remains inside the dirt with the dirt binded to the dirt, then yes, our dog should be able to tell us that it's there.
Thank you, Lindsay. Chris Lambie.
Hi there, Chris Lambie, National Post. Were these specialized dogs available before now?
Again, these dogs have been functioning. The RCMP have had human remains detection dogs. Our first course that we put off was 2017, and our numbers have fluctuated everywhere from the original 4. We've had as many as 11, I believe, and currently we're sitting in around that 6 to 8 that are operational. So, for example, my partner there, Dave, when he mentioned in PEI, that dog handler, that team, they wouldn't be able to respond to calls for service right now due to some medical.
Okay. So if you have a dog that can do this in PI, why are you 2 coming from OS to do this?
That's what I just referenced. He wouldn't be able to deploy. Their team is on the sidelines due to medical reasons.
So did the RCMP want to search with cadaver dogs earlier than this?
Earlier to which, like I said,
before now. Before now, did you want to use a cadaver dog but not have one available?
Again, that's specific to any investigation. I won't be able to comment in regards to a specific investigation. We deploy dogs when they're best suited to the information or the investigation details that we have.
Chris, if you have that specific,
did you want cadaver dogs before this? We're not able to access them.
So I don't have that information at this time, and certainly we can take note of that and let's check with investigators. What's important to remember is that at this time we don't have any definitive information to support that the children are deceased, but we have to keep our minds open and look at all investigative avenues. And earlier on, like I said, we did have police dog services that could pick up human scent, and an extensive search with hundreds of volunteers that were present, right? So we're at the step at the investigation where we have to explore that avenue and bring in specialized human remains detecting dogs.
Thank you, Chris. Mitchell Bailey?
Yes, thank you. Has there been any tips or information received lately that are contributing to why the cadaver dogs are being deployed now at this point?
I can answer that question again. And you know, at this time, we don't have any definitive information to support that children are deceased in the Jack and Lilly search. And our investigators are committed to finding out what happened to their disappearance. And this is another example of utilizing all services that are available to our officers. And we have to remain patient. I know, like the public, our officers want to know what happened. And we're not going to stop until we find out what happened.
And also, I just want to know, and I believe this was mentioned slightly before, but just looking to get a bit more information. Is there an ideal window to conduct these types of searches? Isn't there essentially an end period where it's been too long and the cadaver dogs might have increased difficulty identifying remains?
I believe we have one call for service where a team deployed 2+ years later and recovered material that had been located on the ocean floor during peak high tide or low tide moment that occurred every 10 years or every period of time. The handler was actually on holidays and heard about this tide occurring and made on his own time said, I had to go back and see if we can locate more. The investigation brought them to an area where they did find some bone, some material in around the shoreline. And with the low tide, they went out and they located out into the ocean further as the tide went out. So that would have been material that at least would have been 2+ years on the ocean floor. So again, it's I don't want to say it's limitless, but it's a new profile in regards to Canadian standards. Officially, it's only been in Canada in the last 10, 15 years, where people have been promoting it or been able to actively involved with it. And yeah, with so many variables in play, there's no definitive answer of what the dogs can or can't do. It's all based on the variables or circumstances to that specific incident.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mitchell. Jacob Moore.
Can you hear me all right? Yeah, I'm just wondering, can you say what you have ruled out so far in this case, in terms of where they might be and where the children have ended up?
Jacob, that's a good question. You know, we mentioned that we search, I believe it's 8.5 square kilometers thoroughly with hundreds of volunteers. You know, search managers have provided interviews in the past where you can miss someone's remains. You can miss someone that could be under foliage or trees, or you know, just last year, I believe we found a gentleman in proximity of a vehicle, and it was a missing person, and it was a year after they had gone missing. So you know, how sure are we that we searched thoroughly? We definitely did search thoroughly. Could we have missed something because of the foliage, because of a down tree, because of the weather, because of daylight hours? Absolutely. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add, Dave or Steve, regarding the experience you've had in the past there.
I was going to reference that same one that you mentioned there. Humans search visually. And if something is blocking the view or camouflaging, so on and so forth, this is why, as you said before, that what the dog can offer is that odor present. So they don't rely on the visual. They will take us to that foliage. They will take us to those somewhat concealed or buried or whatnot. If there's odor present, the dogs will locate it. And this is just another tool in the toolbox, for lack of better terms, and another way that we can go over any areas that might have been previously viewed and or new areas. This is, again, covering all avenues, possibilities.
Yeah, can I add a follow-up on there? If these cadaver dogs turn up nothing in these woods after, you know, weeks or however long you're going to search, does that indicate to you that these children are elsewhere than these woods?
Jacob, yeah, go ahead, Dave, please.
Yeah, because I've done many searches where we haven't found anything. That does not mean to say that there isn't something there. It just means I wasn't able to get my dog into the proper area where there was a presence of the odor that he's been trained to find. And that's it. Like if we haven't found anything, it just means that my dog wasn't in the right area for the odor that he's been trained for.
Thank you, Jacob. Rebecca Lau?
So if the dogs don't find anything, could the conditions change? And like if you came back, perhaps they could find something then?
Again, that will come down to the areas of probability, the odor releasing, the different gamuts. If for example it was a small area like the parking lot, as Dave said, from training exercises, we would search an area, and just as a precaution, or not precaution is the right word, just to reassure. Well, the winds could change, different parameters, so we would actually change their search patterning. And there's certain things that we will do with an operational handler to eliminate as many variables as possible. So all of those things will be considered in any investigation that we're doing. Does new information arise? So why would we continually go back to the same area unless we have reason to? Or why would we move to somewhere else unless we have reason to? And this goes down to the areas of highest probability and the best utilization of resources, whether it be the searchers. When any file first comes up, we usually try to find the last known location or possible locations, and this is where we start from. So for us to move or go different areas or locations, generally we're going to need or want something to pull us there, point us in those directions. So again, there's no definite answer because all those variables had to be considered, and then they had to be reanalyzed and new game plans made.
Okay. And just a point of clarification, how big is the team that's coming to Nova Scotia? How many handlers and how many dogs?
There's going to be, I can answer that. There's going to be 2 of us with a dog each. And one of the reasons why we chose to bring 2, one is simply just availability as well. But we're going to be doing a bunch of searching, and what Staff Sergeant Pike was just referring to is, let's say my dog is showing some interest over in whatever part of that we are searching, but he hasn't been able to find anything specifically, like he hasn't been able to get to the source of whatever odor that he's showing a good interest in. Okay, I'm going to pull my dog out and I'm going to get the other handler to come in, and I'm not even going to tell him what I've been seeing or even the location. I'm just going to let him go work that area the same way that, or the area that he thinks he should work it, and see if we have similar results. I'm doing the same thing here in the Lower Mainland. I was out searching for a missing dementia person that they had believed was in a specific area. I went out and searched this area. It was along the Fraser River. My dog is not a very, he'll go and work in water, but he won't go volunteer on his own unless he's got a reason to do it. He hopped into the Fraser River and started swimming around trying to find an odor in the water. Okay, well, that was pretty significant for me. I went back 2 days later. He showed me the same interest, same area. Okay, the underwater dive team came out to search the area. They didn't find anything. It doesn't mean that there isn't anything there. My dog was just out for a swim. The underwater recovery team probably didn't find the person on the bottom of the Fraser River. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get another dog to come out and verify that that I'm not doing something wrong as well. So he's going to go and search and hopefully find the same location, so we can go back to the underwater recovery team and say, you guys have to do another search because there's definitely something in the Fraser River. So yes, to answer your question, is there's going to be 2 of us with 2 different dogs doing the same searches as we're going throughout the Atlantic region.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rebecca. Sharmain?
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, sorry. Thank you very much for doing this today. Could you talk a little bit about the training your dogs go through and also the age of your dogs?
For the Police Dog Service Training Center, we do the full gamut of training. We oversee the development of the younger dogs. We'll call that the imprinting stages. So breeding program develops or births the puppies. Those puppies then go with police officers in the field that are working towards becoming dog handlers through an apprenticeship program, and they work with the dogs to start. That was what we would call informal training. By the time the dog gets approximately a year and a half, so 18 to 24 months, they will start official training program, and they will do that with a teammate, the dog handler. That consists of 85 training days. So they'll start generally in the spring, April, and they'll run till the end of August, September. And that will be what we would call the full profile general duty police service team. Those teams then will have one of the specialties for detection. That could either be explosives, drugs, or human remains. From there, the explosives or human remains, they will actually return back to kennels, to the training center, PDSTC, for an additional training course, which is another 20 plus training days, so another month and a bit, where they will actually fine tune and hone those skill sets. So by the time the dog, there's a variable of age for the dog for the training, which would be from that year and a half to 2 years. So by the time they graduate, that would be in around that 2 to 2.5 years. By the time they finish that secondary detection portion, drugs, or sorry, human remains or explosives, they're going to add another 5 or 6 months on there because the window by the time we get the courses organized. So I don't know if that answers your question in regards to the age or the duration of the training courses.
It does. Is there a process in place to kind of monitor their, lack of a better term, success rate, or is that?
So every year they will go through recertification, validations. They also are responsible to train minimum 8 hours every block, every week. That's minimum. They will take part in various in-service training. And again, they're honing their skills continuously throughout the operational life of that team.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharmain.
I think I will add on to what Staff Pike was saying is specific to our human remains group. All of our handlers that are in that human remains detection group are all very, very experienced police dog handlers. They've been in the field, they've got a lot of service and a lot of time behind the dog. Only because a lot of the investigations that we get involved in could be very high profile. Lilly and Jack is a very good example, right? So we want to be able to have our most experienced or experienced handlers going to these investigations to assist as best as we can.
Thank you, Dave. Jen Tapp.
Hi there, Jen Tappan with the Chronicle Herald. Do you often work in the woods, heavy brush, like in the search area, which has been challenging for search and rescue personnel?
Yes, yes, quite. Most of our searches are in wooded areas, I would say, and they vary from. I was in Newfoundland 2 summers ago, and that was very, very thick. I imagine this is going to be very thick bush as well, from what I've been hearing from the local dog handlers. So, yes, we do very thick stuff.
Okay.
I believe.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I believe there was a stat I read a little while ago that the RCMP police 70% of the country landmass. So most of what the RCMP police will be your rural environments, because Ontario and Quebec, of course, it's only federal. But in regards to the rest of the country, they will do 70% of the landmass of Canada. So it's mostly a lot rural environments.
Okay, thank you. And how big of an area can you generally search in a day? And if I can also squeeze in, the other dog team, where are they from? Is that Inspector Reddy?
Yeah, Inspector Reddy is, he's our provincial E division, which is province of BC. He's our provincial. He's also been tasked with a whole bunch of other stuff, being an inspector now. As far as how much can we search in a day, a lot of that depends on where we're searching. So an example is we have a missing kid up in the Sea to Sky, which is up in Squamish area. And if you've ever been to BC and Squamish, there's a big gondola that takes you up the mountain and you can go hike around in the alpine and everything like that. He's gone missing underneath this gondola. So the terrain in there is very vertical. It's very difficult for a dog and a human to go and search there a considerable distance. Contrast that to a missing cattle rancher outside of Merritt. Merritt has rolling hills, but a lot of the searching was on very flat and very open ground. Where in a course of, I think it was 4 days, I put on 54 kilometers, I think it was, of searching. Where up in the Sea to Sky, I was only able to do 5 kilometers in an entire day. So it just depends on terrain, is a lot of it.
Thank you, Jen. And Steve Curry with Colchester Code 1.
Thanks. I think most of the questions have been asked. Jen, that was a question I was interested in as well, too, in terms of duration and how long it might take to actually do the search. I guess another question I have is, how effective are the dogs in a really strongly competing organic decomp areas, such as the sewage area? Is that something they can detect in?
Absolutely. We do through the training and or exposures that they do after the fact. There is some studies and whatnot. Human decomposition is unique to itself. They are, again, out of Trois-Rivières. They've done a study there a couple of years ago that was published, and they were trying to compare certain animals to decomposition. So they are advancing the knowledge, the science base behind it, but the dogs, again, they are trained specifically for human remains. And as a handler or as a trainer, it's our responsibility to take outside sources of odor that they may be experiencing in an operational call, and what we call proof the dogs off that. So we would proof them off other human scents, other animals, other decomposition materials, food sources, anything that we can think of through our training. We present that in an environment where the dogs would smell and indicate, and part of their annual validations, we actually place other animal decomposition out, and the dogs have to ignore it, show no final response or indication that would, in a sense, fool the handler or have the handler believing otherwise.
Okay, thank you. That's right, go ahead.
I think I can give you 2 examples, I think, of what you're asking about. Is one, I was just in attendance at a Canadian police dog detection seminar here in the spring, where one of the Edmonton human remains handlers was here, and he told us a story of how he was doing a search, and the search eventually led to a septic field, where his dog was like, hey, there's something here, and I can't really find what was here. When they did a pump out of the actual septic tank, they found some of the bones and the hair that was still in the tank from all that biological process. But what has happened is that person was put into the septic tank. All the enzymes and biological processes happened in the septic tank. And when all this was flushed out into the septic field, there's a term called VOCs, volatile organic compound. Those are what we believe our dogs are picking up on and detecting. Those were flushed out into the field. And that's what his dog was telling us, like, there's some VOCs here. Last summer, I was involved in the Saskatoon City Police search of their landfill for one of their homicide victims. And Staff Sergeant Pike was talking about a lot of the science hasn't caught up with what we're actually doing, and we would love to be able to do more. And it's always a question, like, how effective are the dogs in a landfill? Well, we don't know, but we can certainly try. So we were doing kind of our off the side of the table science while we were searching. We had 2 dogs there as well working. So we were doing our own training and our own figuring out how valid is it using a dog in this kind of environment. And it is possible for sure, as long as the VOCs are present for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. That concludes our question and answer period. Thank you folks very much for your questions. Guy, if you'd like to wrap things up.
Thank you, Ian. Andrew Sampson, I see you have your hand up. Did you have a chance to ask 2 questions earlier?
Yeah, I did. You can ignore that.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to thank everyone for attending today, especially our experts here, Staff Sergeant Pike. Thank you very much for coming on air today to answer these questions with the media, and same with you, Sergeant Dave Whalen. Appreciate your time today and efforts in supporting us here in Nova Scotia. Thank you very much. This concludes our media availability for this afternoon. Merci beaucoup pour tout le monde. Passez une bonne fin de semaine.
Thank you.